Shabbat Shalom. All praises to the Most High and the only begotten Son. Shouts out to all the Hebrews, all the righteous Hebrews, and one love to all the Gentiles that call on his name. I'm Brother Josiah here with the Watchman 144 congregation, and today's study is called The Masonic Prophetic Fulfillment, Part 3. We'll be going in and dealing with the prophecies of the Messiah's death, right? Because a lot of his prophecies were spread across the Old Testament, so we're going to gather them all up, right? Just like we did with the other two studies, and we're going to show you the fulfillment of these scriptures. So we're going through these studies to prove to you that the Messiah is he who came, right? That we're not waiting on no Messiah. The only thing we're waiting for is the second coming of the Messiah, right? A lot of people don't believe he was the Messiah, but just like in the last two studies, we prove that he is, and so we're going to continue that, right? So let's get Psalms 41, verse 9, and it reads, "Yeah, my own familiar friends, in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, has lifted up his heel against me." This is King David speaking, right, in the book of Psalms. And he said that one of my friends, right, had lifted up his heel against me, right? So if this King David saying that one of his friends betrayed him, right? And if it is, then where's the scripture or the precept that where this happened, right? We're going to show you that this right here, this happened to the Messiah, right? So let's get St. John's chapter 13, verse 18. And it reads, "I speak not of you all, I know whom I have chosen, but that the scripture may be fulfilled, that he that eats bread with me has lifted up his heel against me," right? This is during when Jesus was washing the feet of the disciples, right? He said so that the scripture can be fulfilled, right? "I speak not of all y'all," right? "But he who eats bread with me has lifted up his heel against me." We all know that was Judas Iscariot, right? He the one that lifted up his heel against Christ, right? He the one that went and sold Christ out, right? So this scripture was fulfilled. The scriptures in Psalms 41 and 9 was fulfilled in St. John's chapter 13, right? When Judas Iscariot turned his back on the Christ, right? And then for all you individuals that don't believe that the Christ is the Messiah, I would like to ask you, all these scriptures that I'm bringing out on the Messiah, can you leave in a comment list who is the individual that fulfilled that, right? And remember, it has to be the same individual. There's not a whole bunch of Messiahs, right? There's only one that was supposed to come and fulfill all these prophecies, right? So for those who don't believe that Christ is the Messiah, right? Can you show me, right? Can you show me one individual that fulfilled all this, right? So let's get the next one. Let's see Zechariah chapter 11, verse 12. And it reads, "And the Lord said unto me, cast it unto the potter, a goodly price that I was priced at of them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them to the potter in the house of the Lord." And that same individual that got paid 30 pieces of silver, and I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them to the potter in the house of the Lord. Let's go get the fulfillment of this and see who was this speaking of, right? Let's get Matthew chapter 26, verse 14 to 16. And it reads, "Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priests and said unto them, What will you give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver. And from that time he sought opportunity to betray him." So who is the him that he was speaking of? So Judas Iscariot went to the chief priest, right? And made a deal with them that he would give the Christ, right? Jesus, Yeshua. He would turn his back on the Christ and give him up to the chief priest, right? That's what this is saying. Let's go and get a little bit more insight, right, on this prophecy, right? So we knew that Judas Iscariot, right, turned his back on Christ, and he made a covenant with the chief priest who was already had something against Christ, right? So let's get another one. Let's get another precept for this prophecy. So Matthew 27, and we're going to read the verse 3 to verse 6. And it reads, Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself, and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, What is that to us? See thou to that. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple, and departed, and went and hanged himself. And the chief priest took the silver pieces and said, It is not lawful for to put them into the treasury, because it is the price of blood. So it's showing you that Judas went back into the temple, threw the 30 pieces of silver, right? Just like it said in Zechariah 11 and 12, right? So we know it was Judas Iscariot that sold Christ out for 30 pieces of silver. And then Judas tried to go back where the chief priests and elders were that were in the temple and threw the 30 pieces down, right? Gave them back, basically, right? Being this prophecy is fulfilled, right? So let's get the next one. So let's get Isaiah chapter 53, verse 3 and verse 4. And it reads, He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrow. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. So verse 3 says, He is despised and rejected of men, and a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. So let's deal with verse 3 real quick. All right, so let's get the fulfillment, right, of verse 3. Let's get St. John's chapter 1, verse 10 to verse 11. And it reads, He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not, right? Giving fulfillment of what? Isaiah chapter 53 and verse 3, right? It says that they hid himself from him, right? It says he was despised of men and of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not, right? And he came into the world, and the world knew him not, right? He came into his own, and his own received him not, right? Giving fulfillment. So let's deal with Isaiah 53 and verse 4 now. Isaiah 53 and 4. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted, right? So let's get the fulfillment of that. Let's get Matthew chapter 8, verse 16 to 17. When the evening was come, they brought unto him many that were possessed with devils, and he cast out the spirits with his word, and healed all that were sick, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Himself took our infirmities and bare our sicknesses, right? He took their infirmities and bare their sicknesses by healing them, right? Like he said, they brought him all type of people that was possessed with devils, right? And he cast out the spirits with his word and healed all that were sick, right? So he carried their griefs, borne their griefs, right? And took away their sorrows, right? Being in it, and like I said, it being fulfilled in the book of Isaiah. So Christ fulfilled that verse that we read in the book of Isaiah, right? He fulfilled that, making him, right, the Messiah, the one who was supposed to come, right? And come through, right? And fulfill all these prophecies. So let's get the next one. Let's get Psalms 22, verse 16 to 18. And it reads, For dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierce my hands and my feet. I make tell all my bones. They look and stare upon me. They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture. So even though this is being spoken of in the book of Psalms, did King David have his hands and his feet pierced? Did they rip King David's clothes and sell his garments? Right? for all those who don't believe in the New Testament, right? Or the Messiah that came, right? During the time of the New Testament. Did King David have his hands and feet pierced? Was his garment ripped, torn, and sold, right? Did they cast lots, right? Let's go get the fulfillment of this. Let's get Matthew 27, verse 35. And it reads, and they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vestures did they cast lots. So we know that Christ got crucified, right? We know that it was him whose hands and feet was pierced, who were crucified, and they parted his garment. Did that happen to King David? Did that happen to Joshua? Did that happen to any Old Testament prophets, right? Did that happen to any of them? Because you got a lot of brothers that don't believe in the Christ, right? Like I said, did any of the Old Testament prophets, right, get crucified? And you know what's funny? You can't say they did, because crucifixion was a Roman punishment. And the Romans was not ruling during the time of the Old Testament prophets, right? They was not ruling. So it couldn't have been none of the Old Testament prophets that fulfilled this scripture, right? Let's get the next prophecy. Let's get Isaiah chapter 53, verse 12. And it reads, therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he has poured out his soul unto death. And he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. We know who poured out his soul unto death, right? And he got rewarded for that too. If you go and read the scriptures, when Christ went back up to the Father, go read and see what he got. I think that's in the book of Daniel. You know what I'm saying? Go see what was given to him. You know what I'm saying? Go see what was given to him. Well, let's go to the scripture that fulfilled this, right? So I'm going to have to put it out there again. Did King David fulfill this? Did Joshua fulfill this? Did Isaiah? Did any other prophets fulfill this? Let's go see who fulfilled this scripture in the Bible. Let's get this. Let's get Mark chapter 15, verse 27 and 28. And it reads, and with him they crucified two thieves, the one on his right hand and the other on his left. And the scripture was fulfilled, which saith, he was numbered with the transgressors. So when they meant by he was numbered with the transgressors, that means he was numbered, right? When he was up there on the cross, they had two other cats up there, right? So they numbered them all together. Like my whole thing is this once again. Who else in the scriptures was numbered with the transgressors, right? Who else? Was it Joshua? Was it King David? Was it Isaiah? Was it Haggai? Was it Zephaniah? Was it Zechariah? If the Christ isn't the one that fulfilled these scriptures, then who in the Old Testament already did, right? Because you can't say the Messiah is to come. Yeah, he is coming, but he coming back to whoop some butt. You know what I'm saying? He already came and fulfilled these scriptures, right? He's coming back to whoop some butt. That's where we at right now, right? So it says that he was numbered with the transgressors, fulfilling scripture, right? Fulfilling what the prophet said, right? Let's get the next one. So let's get Psalms chapter 69, verse 4. And it reads, they that hate me without a cause are more than the hairs of my head. They that would destroy me, being my enemies wrongfully, are mighty. Then I restored that which I took not away, right? So he said, they that hate me without a cause are more than the hairs of my head, right? So let's get the fulfillment of that. So let's get St. John 15, verse 25. And it reads, but this comes to pass, that the word might be fulfilled, that is written in their law. They hated me without a cause. It says they hated me without a cause. You can read that in Psalms 35 and 19 as well. They hated him without a cause. How do we know that? What did he do? He healed everybody. He came and he taught them game. He taught them real Torah, what the Torah meant, because obviously the people was blind and they didn't understand the scriptures. The scribes and Pharisees was being janky. They didn't understand the scriptures. He came to give clarity and show you that narrow path, right? He came to show us, right, that narrow road, that passage, so we can get into the kingdom. This is why he came, right? and other things as well. He came to restore the children of Israel as well, right? So we have to remember these things, man. Because if he ain't the Messiah, then who is? Let's get the next verse. This is Psalm 69, verse 21. And it reads, they gave me also gall for my meat, and in my thirst they gave me vinegar to drink. So this is King David writing this. So when the hell was King David doing giving vinegar to drink when he's King David? I would like to ask you, when did this happen to King David? When did this happen to King David? When did this happen to King David? Huh? Can anybody answer that? Well, I can show you who this did happen to. Let's get this precept. Let's get the fulfillment of this. You know what I'm saying? Let's get John chapter 19, verse 28 to 29. And it reads, after this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, saith, I thirst. Now there was set a vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar, and put it upon hypsos, and put it to his mouth. Verse 30, when Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, it is finished, and he bowed his head and gave up the ghost, right? So as soon as he drank that vinegar, he was like, you know what, this is it. It's all finished. What does he mean by it was finished? Meaning the prophecies that he was fulfilling. The prophecies of him coming, right, and dying for the sins of the people. The prophecies of him fulfilling what the Old Testament prophets spoke of. It was finished. Let's get the last one. Let's get Psalms 34, verse 20. And it reads, he keeps all his bones, not one of them is broken. He keeps all his bones and not one of them is broken, right? Let's see when this was fulfilled. Let's get St. John chapter 19, verse 36. And it reads, for these things were done that the scripture should be fulfilled. A bone of him shall not be broken, right? So he's fulfilled scripture because when none of his bones broke. Let's see why his bones was not supposed to be broken. Let's get Exodus chapter 12, verse 46. This is concerning the Passover, right? And the Passover lamb. So let's get it. So, and it reads, in one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh, abroad out of the house. Neither shall ye break a bone thereof. So the Most High during the Exodus, when he was telling the children of Israel how to celebrate the Passover, he was saying, don't you take it up out of the house, neither break none of the bones thereof. So Christ being a symbolic Passover lamb, he had to follow these rules as well. His bones was permitted not to be broken, and his bones were not broken, right? Let's get it one more. Let's get another one. Let's get the last one. Let's get Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10. And it reads, I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. And they shall mourn for him as one mourns for his only son. It shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. So it says that they shall look upon him who they pierced, right? Let's get the fulfillment. Back to St. John chapter 19, and we go read 36 and 37. And it reads, for these things were done that the scripture should be fulfilled. A bone of him shall not be broken. And again, another scripture saith, they shall look on him whom they pierced. They shall look on him whom they pierced, right? King David get pierced. Then Joshua get pierced. And did the enemies look upon them? A lot of those individuals didn't die by the hand of their enemies, right? So let me ask you this. Christ is the Messiah. Christ fulfilled this. Christ fulfilled this when he was on the cross, right? And those who pierced him, right? The Jews and the Romans, right? They looked upon him. They looked at him while he was on the cross and they mourned for him, right? So let's get the last verse real quick. Acts chapter 3, verse 18. And it reads, but those things which God before showed by the mouth of all his prophets that Christ should suffer, he has so fulfilled, right? The prophecies of Christ suffering, right? Being crucified, being denied, rejected by his own people, right? All these things has he fulfilled. Christ fulfilled all the prophecies that the prophets spoke of about the Messiah. Making Christ the Messiah, making Jesus the Messiah, making him the Son of God. The Son of God had to come down here and show us that narrow path, because not only was the children of Israel was out of whack and the priesthood was out of whack, he had to come down here and show light unto the Israelites so the Israelites can show light unto the Gentiles as well, right? Because at this time, the scribes and Pharisees was off, dude. They was off. Since the Old Testament, the priests, all of them was off, right? They were hell-bound, right? So we know by these studies that we just done that Christ fulfilled the Old Testament prophecy. Our brother Josiah with the Watchman 144, all praise to the Most High and his only begotten Son, the Christ, the real Christ, the Messiah, the Mashiach, right? One love to the righteous Israelites, right? And one love to the righteous Gentiles that call on the Most High name. Godspeed, y'all stay safe. Don't let this news get your mind all bottled up, right? Don't worry about the letter, right? What men write and what men tell you. Stick to this word, right? I know it's a hectic time out there, but stick to this word and we gonna be okay. I promise you that. All praise to the Most High. I'm Brother Josiah. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath. And I'm out.